Bom, boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start number 6 panel, and the theme is protection of seedlings by patents. So before you want to fight with me, the theme was not chosen by me. So we know that the seedlings per se are not possible to be protected in accordance with the prohibitions of Article 18, paragraph number 3. So what we will talk about today, we have two guests. We are honored to have this panel with them to moderate this panel. And we'll be talking about the inventions when it comes to biotechnology in the agribusiness, extremely relevant sector to our country. So we'll be bringing 2 points of view that are really interesting. One of the industry, represented by Bayer, one of the most important companies in the world in this kind of science, with enormous portfolio of patents in many different countries, with patent legislations that are different between themselves. So Gonzalo is going to bring a more global approach to challenges that are faced by a company of the size of Bayer. And on the other hand, we are going to have the vision of Embrapa, a public company in Brazil, not a public company, a government company in Brazil, and it focuses on research and development when it comes to biotechnology. So a national point of view of a government-run company and the point of view of a multinational company. So without longer ado, I would like to introduce our speakers formally so that they can start their presentations. So I'm going to break the protocol, and I'm going to do this introduction in Portuguese, because Gonzalo, so he asked me to do that in Portuguese. So Gonzalo Rovira is the regional director of IP in licensing for LATAM and Group Air, and he was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina. He has more than 20 years of experience in the legal segment. After studying law in university in Buenos Aires, he began his career in the Poder Judiciário Nacional, working as the assistant of Dr. Carlos Maria Hotman in the Chamber of the Supreme Court in commercial affairs. Some years later, he began his private practice as an associate in the law firm Brown & Sons. In 2004, he obtained his master's in IP commerce in the Printer Real Solar Center. In 2005, he joined Monsanto Company, where he began working as a legal consultant in the Department of IP. In 2007, he moved back to Argentina to work as a senior management for legal affairs for the South Cone region. In 2014, he was the regional director of IP and licensing for LATAM. And since 2019, Gonzalo has a responsibility in the regions of IP in the business units of the Bayer Group, with sciences of health and agriculture in the Cone region, besides the strategy of licensing to the region of LATAM. Dr. Gonzalo Rovira is still a professor at the University of San Andres in a master's program in IP and innovation in Argentina. Now I'm going to introduce our colleague from Embrapa, Simone Sayuri Tsuneda. She has a license, and she graduated in science and sociology, in physical pathology as well, concentrating on neurosciences through the University of Medical Sciences of Unicamp, and a doctor in science also by the same university, Unicamp. She has a background in IP as well through the World Organization of IP and the INPI as well. She's got experience in molecular genetics, mainly applied to neuroscience, neurology, with emphasis in epilepsy and some malformations in the cerebral cortex. She works with IP more specifically in patents when it comes to biotechnology and molecular biology. Currently, she is a supervisor of IP at Embrapa since November of 2021. So thank you all for your presence. So I would like to invite my colleague Gonzalo to give his presentation. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so much for Thank you, ABPI, for the invitation, especially to my colleague, Mr. Souza, who was the one who invited me to be a speaker today. So to me, it's a pleasure. He's my friend, he's my colleague when it comes to the IP bearer team for LATAM. So my Portuguese is not so fluent as you might believe. So I think that I'm going to switch to English and then later on to Spanish so that you can practice a little bit, so that I can practice my Portuguese a little bit. So.
Let me see if this. Check it. Se funciona. Ah. Não. Não é a apresentação. Vamos saber.
Poderiam verificar a apresentação? Não é essa.
Could you please verify where his presentation is, because this is not his. I think this presentation is somebody else's.
Mientras están, while the technicals will be resolved, I think that the main aspects that we have to address today is how the agriculture really impacts on today's society. And one of the main aspects that we have as part of this Congress this year is, how these important technologies and the intellectual property helps in terms of making a sustainable asset, and brings, the benefits to our society. So my agenda that I prepare for today will be addressing in three parts. The first one is related to the innovations in crop science, with basically I will be giving in a nutshell, the new advanced technologies that the company, the Bayer Group, is investing in bringing, and accomplishing, benefits for today's demanding of farmers. Legal considerations in terms of will be particularly focused on Brazil, which is the aspects in terms of how I would say it could create any type of misunderstanding with the title of this panel, as Gabriela was mentioning, and then share my conclusions. Okay, so Bayer, the Bayer Group has been investing for more than 25 years, in research and development, and I will be concentrated, today on my presentation more on the biotechnology side. So under the biotechnology, we had been focusing on four main pillars in terms of, the crops of interest. And this is soybean, corn, cotton, and canola. And I will say that to get into these disciplines of the four species, the main aspects in terms for being considered has been through the research of a multidisciplinary teamwork. And sometimes when you think about that this may involve just, breeders, is not that the situation. Breeders is one of the components of that breeding team and developing team. But then you have, data scientists and you have engineers that are, involved in have a broad perspectives on what has to be accomplished by agriculture. Of course, with the modeling on new, predictable, on artificial intelligence, may help, to definitely achieve, the objectives that we want to get. The research and development is divided, in four phases, and this is important to remarks is in terms of the time of the efforts and financial efforts that has to be accomplished in terms of getting the lead, transgenic event for having, in the same in the specific crop that you want, to get this solution to be resolved. And in this time, what you see is over there that phase one is the starting point on the discovery of the genes. And this may take, thousands of genes in terms of selecting which is the one that might be used in order to be getting, to the proof of concept. If the gene actually helps in terms of what we need to achieve, that might be, different alternatives in terms of getting, for insect resistance or herbicide tolerance or drought tolerance or increased yield. As an example, in terms of getting, which is definitely the proof of the concept that we want to achieve, demanding on farmers. But then you face, I would say, you go to the different phases in phase 3 and phase 4, which I will say that phase 3 will be critical in terms of if what you had been investing and developing really works. And this is scientists. So as science, you can get into a situation where you intend to get into the results, but many times you get failures. So you have to start back again. So this is really important because of the time that is consuming in terms of getting the product into the market, it takes, as it is indicated over there, between the 12 to 15 years approx. When you see there's here, I would say there's 4 key technology pillars in the plant biotechnology, and basically, as we see over here, is the genes, the proteins, what it is now called the RNA or the genome mapping and editing. This has been, the 4 pillars in terms of investing in research and development. As you see, is really important in terms of getting, the delivering of sustainability, the yield improvement, and this is difficult to manage, the insects additions or fertility with management. So it's really important in terms of how you're going to be getting, but through these 4 pillars is essentially helpful in terms of achieving what you want to get in terms of a solution. Going through certain developments that really makes an important reference here is in terms of the first crop that I will address is cotton. And cotton, as you see, Vieira is the global leader in the cotton seed and trade. And as you may see from the figures, we have, in Brazil particularly, we have around the 50% of the marketplace here with the successful biotechnologies has been put it into commerce and create, great benefits, particularly on what it is herbicide resistance as it is a trade package with the insect control, which, as you may see, one of these main enemies for farmers in the farms are, the insects that compete in terms of, eating the plant. So having this adapted plant, which contains inside, biotechnology, provides, great benefits in terms of control these insect pressure. And of course has the benefit of reducing the use of insecticides, which is a great benefit for taking care of the environmental perspective. If we jump into soybean, as a company member, we are proud, to indicate that the first biotechnology that has been designed for the South American market has been Intacta. The first soybean, which has, 2 main benefits. on biotechnology. The first is the insect resistance and the glyphosate tolerance, plus the increase in yield. So this biotechnology has been, a tremendous success in Brazil, and as it is indicated, in the slide, you got that more than 80,000 hectares, which is around 42 million hectares, that has been planted in Brazil in 21-22. And what it is next is that the second generation of these technologies, which is Intacta 2 Extend, which confers not only a second mode of action to the insect pressure, but also to a herbicide tolerance, to another, to not only glyphosate but also dicamba, which is another weed that competes in the farm, has been a tremendous success so far in the market. What is next is focus on the third and fourth generation of new soybeans with biotechnologies, which will be creating a great advance to the Brazil market. In terms of these next soybean herbicide tolerance traits, will be a great flexibility. The weeds has been turning a great competitor, for the farming production, and through the use of different genes that could be tolerant to the spray of the herbicides, could be creating, a huge benefits and of course increasing yield. So as it is stated, there's a huge control and benefits that will be creating this fourth and fifth generation of biotechnology. In terms of corn has been, another success in Brazil, particularly with our BT Pro technology, which is conferring, as a different mode of action in terms of insect control, not only below the soil, but also, above what is in the plant. So this has been another benefit in terms of controlling and getting, the success in terms of the production and increased yield for farmers. And of course, there's also another biotechnologies that has been launched in the United States that following will be probably the next generation to be launched here in Brazil as well. This is on the pictures. You may see over here, how the control root in one of the plants, is totally damaged, and this is a result of the worms that has been killing the plant below the soil. But on the other hand, when you have the one that is selected with the corn rootworm 4, you may see that it looks totally different. So this is an example in terms of what you do not see, in the soil, but afterwards, you realize about the benefits that these type of biotechnologies confer. There is another new focus on our company in terms of, how to develop increased yield. But I would say that one of the challenges is the capacity of the land. And so we need to deliver, high yield, but trying to get into small portions of the land. And as a way to do it, this is this new concept of hybrids corn, which are short stature. And this is really important development, because this is fantastic in terms of managing, these type of technologies. Incredible with the use of other techniques like digital farming, which has been helping in terms of knowing which is the specific aspects that you need to address in a field. Is benefits also for the equipment for farmers in terms, because the difference of the highest of the corn make the benefits in terms of how to address and get access and use, with the benefits in terms of not having the big or the tallest corn hybrids. So this is really good, and there is a lot of potential for our region in terms of the benefits that we can create. So as you see in the map, South America is over there, so it's part of. We already started with the breeding approach in phase 4, and we are also getting into this biotech approach, which is in a pretty advanced on phase 3. And what is next coming is the gene editing approach will be on our start in developing, but this is a reality that you will be seeing, in Brazil shortly. We
increase farm productivity for a growing population. We help farmers adapt to climate change. We restore topsoil, conserve water, and reduce agriculture's negative impact on the environment.
It takes all 5 of our core R&D platforms, breeding, biotechnology, chemistry, biologicals, and data science to power our pipeline.
Smart solutions, combining the physical and the digital, are the future of farming.
A future that increases productivity and nature-positive benefits.
So this is really, I would say, this is passion for what we are doing and trying to accomplish, for shaping the future, but taking care about these main aspects in terms of how we regenerate, this agriculture in a way to take care of the natural resources, which is critical. If you do not take care of the soil, that will be impacting also on the benefits on the products. But jumping into the legal considerations, and then, Simone will be getting into her perspectives in this matter. I want to share with you about these aspects in terms of having these legal considerations of how you protect these type of inventions, and how is the difference between, the plant variety or cultivars legal regime. So it's important to know that we have, these two systems, which is consistent and has been ruling in 2 different laws in the legislation. In Brazil, we have, the law, the industrial property law, which is a law which essentially what it covers is the patent rights. And a patent will be protected, so far if it complies with the patentability requirements, which is the standards as part of has been, Brazil adopting, the TRIPS agreement, which involves to have, the novelty, the inventive step, and the industrial application. So if an invention qualifies in terms of those patentability requirements, should be able to be protected through patent. It's important to mention that here, when we are talking about these biotechnology products or biotechnology process who are subject to protection, what is really something that is just provided under the law is what it is not subject to be patentable, which is the natural being things, the biological materials found in nature or isolated their form, including the genome or the germ plasm in natural processes. So it's important to mention that the entity, the government entity who is a different legislation, and there's different requirements that has to be set up, for a variety to be protected. And this is novelty from a commercial standpoint, a distinctiveness, uniformity, and stability. And those are requirements that has been set up, through the UPOF Convention, where Brazil is member on the 1978 version. The object of protection here is the plant variety and the propagated material. So coming back to the question in terms of, of the title that we have for this panel, the seeds are not protected through patents, this is the material, the propagation materials that falls within the protection of the PVP law. The authority or governmental authority who takes care of the analysis and the issuance of the certificate, if it is fulfilled the requirement, is the SNPC, which is the Servicio Nacional de Protección de Cultivares. The examination is important to mention, is totally different in terms of what we have to face, within INPE, which is less than around, 1 year. Under the limitations of these law, what you have is the breeder's exemption, the farmer's exemption, and the use of raw material for food consumption, and the restricted public use. Members of this is a map indicated about the 1978 Act, where, Brazil and I would say most of the countries in Latin America has been members of this. So there's a quite harmonized principle in terms of how these sui generis protection for varieties has been adopted. Although Brazil has been taking the 1978, there is certain provisions under the 1991, which is a new version that has been adopted, under the Brazilian law. Jumping into the intellectual property law, what we see is that we have, the products and processes, and as you see, it's totally different, and we are going to be seeing, in more details. Right away, but this is essentially what you refers is to recombinant DNA molecules, DNA constructs or gene sequences. This is clearly something under protection, by the industrial property law. And what is important to mention here, and I think that this is the new advance or news that we have this year, is regarding, the technical note issued by INPI. Which is, I would say, is basically the great benefits that we have over here is the principle of stability of the relationships, allowing better understanding of the INPI's technical positions related to the industrial property law in this specific biotechnology area. And this is also a great benefit to have a greater predictability on the acts issued by INPI. Important is, although the transgenic events were considered, patentable subject matter for many, many years, this is good in terms of, having a nice definition, and I would say, the criteria in terms of, how you do the assessments of novelty and industrial property. So patenting of accessory inventions, to transgenic plants, it's also considered. And without getting into much details, one of the points that I think that is really important, and thanks to INPI that has been dedicated time, to the issuance of these type of resolutions, it gives clarity to applicants which is patentable under the law. And as you see, there is this from an inventorship perspective, this is critical in terms of knowing with anticipatory stage, that your invention and which type of your invention will be protected under the law. So, as you see, this is examples in terms of what the technical note has been issued, including not only for products that we see in the previous slide, but also here in this slide that refers more to the method or processes of biotechnology and how to obtain a transgenic plant or method for detecting the event. So this is really a really good advance, and I think it should be considered as a role model to be taken into consideration for other countries in LATAM to get into much detail as it is in this technical decision. As a conclusion, regenerative agriculture's in Vieira vision is, producing more with less and while restoring more. So this is really important, as you have been seeing, in the video with more details. We have one holistic approach on delivering, the three combinations of technologies. This is the seeds and traits, which I covered today, the crop protection, and, the digital technology, which fulfills and comply, and it is an important tool, in terms of reaching out to the benefits of increasing yield. Partnerships across with the agriculture value chain is also critical in terms of getting, these regenerative agriculture solutions to scale. And I will say it as a reflection that IP is fundamental. It's a fundamental pillar, for launching innovative and revolutionary in technologies. Without IP, it's impossible, to bring this type of technologies into the market. And what is really important here is the legal predictability, which is critical. With decision and this, like the IMPI, give us, the opportunity as applicants in terms of knowing that we will have, a sustainable investment environment, for here, as it is Brazil. So thank you very much, and I pass to Simone for her presentation.
Pode pôr esse microfone aqui, ó.
É com esse?
Aquele não funciona.
Aquele não funciona? Tá. Minha apresentação vai entrar?
To speak a little bit about Embrapa, because we're a company that focuses on research for agriculture. So our team is on the field, and we have an audience that is very urban here. So let me tell you a little bit of what we do. We are a government-run company, and it's really nice to have the opportunity to be talking to you. And I want to show you a little bit of how we use these legal resources to use our technologies and using IP in favor of strategies of the public sector. So let's start. So Embrapa is a company that focuses on research, agro-research. We're a Brazilian company that is turning 50 right now, and we're related to the Ministry of Agriculture. So we are linked to the executive at the federal level. We integrate and we lead the national system of agricultural research together with other institutions and regulatory bodies and fostering bodies as well, and private companies as well. So we are a government-run company, and as a consequence, our role, our responsibility is social. It's very closely related to food safety, and so we have to provide better food, but also respecting and trying to find solutions that aim the preservation of our biomas, our biodiversity, as a country that is great in this sector. And we can't just not bring solutions that respect our biodiversity. So it's a socio-economic development that we try to do together with the environmental conservation. We are a company that is relatively big. We have more than 7,800 employees, out of which more than 2,000 are researchers, most of them doctors. And besides that, we have analysts and technicians that provide support in research, in administrative issues. So it's a company that is spread out throughout the whole country. From Roraima to Rio Grande do Sul state, we have activities in research, so we are present in all the Brazilian biomas. And we work with a great number of species that it's greater than you can imagine. We work from species from the Amazon and also from temperate species. So when Embrapa was created in 1973, in the 70s, we were a country that had a strong dependency on exports to feed our population. And now, as you all know, we are a country that is a powerhouse in agriculture. And I'm very proud to say that a great part of that is a result of Embrapa's work during these 50 years. So it's 43 units that are decentralized for research throughout the whole country, and 22 central units that are in our headquarters in Brasilia, which is where I'm based. Besides that, we have an international presence. So we have presence in basically all continents, almost all of them, with partnerships with the greatest research institutions and participation in networks of research in basically almost every continent as well. We provide support to the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of International Affairs in terms of global policies, and we also subsidize the Brazilian government in the strategic negotiations for agriculture. So we are always very present together with the Ministry of Agriculture and with the federal government in many different forums, internationally speaking, when it comes to global policies. And we have representatives in basically all forums related to that subject, representatives of the research as well as the management of the company. Besides that, we have 2 virtual labs in Embrapa today through our partnerships, internationally speaking, one in the United States and one in Europe, in Montpellier, in France. So we have, as I mentioned, 43 research centers with almost 8,000 employees, and we act in many different areas: bioeconomy, digital agriculture, and also one that we do very strongly is the biotechnology, molecular technology solutions through the vegetable technology, and that's why I'm here. So I believe that one of the reasons that I'm here is that Embrapa has always taken part in the creation and articulation of the policies of IP in this country. So I know, even though I wasn't there back then, but I know that we've been working a lot, and we worked a lot in the creation of the policies for the protection of cultivation. So that is really valued in our company. And our first IP policy was published internally in the company in 1996, which is the year of the publication of our industrial property law, the most recent one. So we use the mechanisms of protection that are singular and unique, which is like, for example, the cultivation protection, which is basically how we transfer technologies with social focus that are done through the areas that are protected together with the SNPC, as well as the patent protection. And the patent protection is a concrete basis. It's been helping us a lot and has been serving a lot of people as a tool, as a concrete base of these new partnerships that we are trying to have. Embrapa, throughout the last decades, has been open to partnerships mainly with the private sector, and the patents, the technologies that we patent or that we are trying to have a patent in these partnerships, they have been a constant object of our partnerships and our contracts for cooperation. But even more than that, now I'm assessing all these years, we see a great strategic relevance for the country. We, as a company that has been working very strongly for the economic development of the country, the utilization of IP has had this important role of the appropriation of our technological production. So we produce for the country. We work strongly with capacity building of our researchers, our best and greatest and biggest research centers around the world. We brought them here, and we worked with them developing technologies, and IP comes as a consequence, as a strategy for the country in terms of appropriation of this technological production so that we can develop not only as it does in our IP portfolio. So we have many partnerships with the private and public sector around the world, and that was facilitated and made feasible because of the innovation law and the other legislations that are in the scope of this framework. And throughout these years, we've been building this portfolio, our portfolio of IP assets. These are figures of the processes that we have active right now. Throughout our history, we've filed a lot of patents, but currently we have the majority of them related to cultivation, and we developed many technologies related to cultivation in order to face plagues and environmental issues that are present in Brazil, but we also have patents both in Brazil as well as abroad. And it's interesting to assess, to evaluate that out of the 400-ish processes that we have now, about 50 of them related to patents address vegetal technology. So these are patent processes that have technologies related to genetic modification, so the GMOs. So using recombinant DNA or interferent DNA, and they are focused on resistance and tolerance and control of plagues, as well as the resistance and tolerance to droughts or other issues related to issue or climate, to the land, to the soil and climate. And how do we deal with it? As Gabi said so well, we have the specific issue of the legislation in Brazil of Article 10 and Article 18 that makes it impossible for us to protect organisms and certain things that are not GMO. So as you saw, we also bring a lot of protection abroad because we have a lot of partnerships abroad. So we always do things in a very wide way. So when we have a patent to be filed in the INPI, and of course that our majority of cases are done in Brazil, but if we have something that is abroad, it also brings the possibility of new products. So we always have to include plants, microorganisms that are included in the processes of the generation of this genetically modified plants and everything else that we need to protect if they are protectable depending on the modification that you carry out. So even knowing that some of it will be not approved, we know that most likely we are going to bring this abroad to make some sort of partnership feasible to explore it commercially. And then we have to think in a wider way when we talk about filing patents. So I would like to mention that this issue related to the feasibility of a patent of live beans, it was part of the debate in the Brazilian Association of IP. Within the strategy, we had many technical dialogues that were built and were conducted based on a public consultancy. These dialogues had a participation of members of the government as well as the civil society. We from Embrapa followed, we monitored these dialogues and we provided support to technical support to the Ministry of Agriculture. And one of them was the debate of the feasibility of certain patents. And the debates were based on Articles 10 and 18 of LPI, which is the law for IP in Brazil. So the debate was really productive and intense, but the absence of consensus was from beginning to end. So it is extremely controversial when we talk about Brazil. Maybe abroad things are better resolved, but in Brazil, the controversy is consolidated. There's no consensus. And one of the suggestions that were in the report created after all these technical dialogues was the suggestion in the lowering of restrictions when it comes to biological material, not without thinking about the scope of the law of cultivations. So once we have chosen to have a protection for vegetables and also have the law for industrial IP, we have to be careful when we want to widen the scope of patents in terms of observing other legislations that are to be enforced, because we don't want to interfere in third parties' rights. And when it comes to the applicability of the current legislation, I have to mention the technical document published that it's undeniable that that brings an advancement to us when it comes to filing patents involving the technologies that we use. So for us at Embrapa, that brought a great benefit and more clarity to the issue, and it brings more legal safety. But in my case, as a specialist of biotechnology, I had to pay attention and observe that the scope of this new note is focused to transgenic plants. What does it mean? These are plants that receive DNA from another organism. So when we talk, for example, about technologies that now are dominating the biotechnology studies, and that is being treated, for example, by our Technical Commission of Biosafety as not transgenic, and then there's no need for regulation. To us, it's still not clear how that is going to be addressed. And that is something that I have been questioning INPI in the tables that I have been debating with them, and I'm sure they're debating that right now because we are poking them all the time. But that is not foreseen in this technical note. And then when we had the public consultancy, I tried to talk to them. So now to close and try to be, I tried to be a little faster. Now to close, I want to talk a little bit about the future challenges to Brazil, representing a public institution, which is my case. So we'll always have this issue of the incentive of innovation versus using the genetic resources. This is the dichotomy that we live on a daily basis at Embrapa. We are a company that is always addressing conservation of genetic resources, but we're always trying to bring solutions to increase productivity, also to lower the cultivated area. So we have to produce more with less area, which decreases slash and burn and things like that, and deforestation. So that is something that we should always be observing and debating when we talk about the patents about live beings. So genetic production products in the mid and long term, these are genetic modifications. These are genetically modified organisms, but not necessarily they are transgenic. So how are we going to address that in Brazil? Besides all the controversy related to CRISPR technology, in Brazil, how are we going to be able to protect our technologies that are a result of that? That is a question that I receive all the time from both researchers from Embrapa as well as external partners. And I don't have that answer yet because it's not been given to me yet. And now something a little bit about what we hope to happen more immediate, which is the Budapest Agreement signing. As a public institution, as a public sector institution, we are trying to use the MCTIC, which is the Ministry of Technology, to help us with that, so that we, as a research Brazilian institution, can reduce costs. I mean, and we are always depending on budget, so we have to reduce costs. So we need the fostering of institutions, and that is of high cost to us. We have an operational difficulty when you send MGO organisms. The biosafety issues are very strong, so it's really difficult to send it to the filing agencies abroad, and Peter, who is here with us, knows that very well. And definitely adhering to the Budapest Agreement is going to help not only the Brazilian companies, the innovation Brazilian system, the contest of a Brazilian innovation, but as well as the partners that come work with us here now and in the future. Thank you so much. So that was just a little bit of advertisement to see if I can mobilize more people to help us. So this is what I had to say. I would like to thank you, and I am here to answer any possible questions you have. Thank you so much, Gonzalo. Thank you, Simone. We've had two presentations that were really interesting. I would like to thank on behalf of ABPI. Obviously, we are going to have some time for questions, but what I would like to make a comment about, linked to the theme of our Congress this year, it is important to notice, to observe, thinking about the two presentations with different perspectives, showing the public sector in Brazil in a perspective of a multinational company with the size of Bayer, and that everything converges to solutions that are innovative and technologies that are focused on the agribusiness, and that has an impact in social issues such as sustainability, the partnerships, the support to farmers, regardless of their size. So that is very interesting to see how you can create this link with the theme of our Congress. So we have 9 minutes left, approximately, so I would like to open for a Q&A. Whoever wants to ask a question, please raise your hands, and we'll bring the mic so that you can use the mic for your question.
And we'll bring you the microphone. We have a question. Hello. So my name is Roman Frab. I'm from Porto Alegre. I've been working quite a lot in the area of wine, above all with Embrapa and Beto Gonçalves, where there's Jorge Di Tonieto there, was a local researcher. I think he has a PhD from France. He has this bagage in terms of the origin. But this is regarding the development of specific grapes or plants for the local climate. And we are being consulted by olive oil producers in southern Brazil and Embrapa in Pelotas. The Embrapa office in Pelotas was used. Do you have any specific policy regarding olive oil and the development of land of origin for this? Well, I was kind of unadvised. Well, Embrapa, as a research company, we work very much supporting communities that look for protection of land origin. We don't work directly on that. We have a line of research group that has worked on olive oil, but as far as I know, they don't work on development of new variety or in adapting varieties to Brazil. As usual with other cultures, they work more on quality technologies and evaluation of the oil itself extracted from the olive tree. The Embrapa policies are not specific to cultures. We have general policies and research portfolios for the different cultivations, and then we have those technologies which try to adapt and which can lead to lines of research within what is possible. What I can say is that if you didn't have an answer yet, I can see what I can do. I think it is an interesting line of research which is really trying to take off in the company. And with Tonieto, you're well advised in terms of land origin. So at the company, he's our greatest expert. Any other question? No? So we don't have questions on the chat either. But anyway, both Gonzalo and Simone left their email information in case you want to ask questions later on. Please feel at ease. And I would like to once again thank you for your attendance, for having accepted the invite. Those were excellent lectures. And I also thank the audience. And that's pretty much it. And this was panel number 6. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.